Welcome to our channel, where we explore the most intriguing and spine-chilling stories from around the globe. What comes to mind when you think of a typical killer? Perhaps someone with a troubled past, lacking education, and having limited social awareness. But what if the reality completely defied those stereotypes? Today, we're delving into a story that shook the world to its core. Back in 2022, Netflix captivated audiences worldwide with Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, a series that delves deep into the mind of one of history's most infamous predators. Building on the theme of psychological crime, the second installment of Monster has arrived, bringing yet another harrowing tale of murder to the screen. This time, the focus shifts to Lyle and Eric Menendez. However, in their story, we believe the term monsters may apply to more than just these two. Without further delay, let's step into the shadows and uncover the secrets behind this infamous sibling duo. José Enrique Menendez, born on May 6, 1944, in Havana, Cuba, left his homeland at the age of 16 due to the Cuban Revolution and moved to the United States. While attending Southern Illinois University, he met Mary Louise Kitty Anderson, and they married in 1963. They settled in New York, where José earned a degree in accounting from Queens College. Their first son, Joseph Lyle, was born in 1968. The family later moved to New Jersey, where their second son, Eric Galen, was born in 1970. Both boys attended Princeton Day School. With a successful career, José became the CEO of Hertz, RCA Records, and eventually Live Entertainment. After assuming the CEO position, the family relocated to Calabasas, California. In 1988, Lyle and Eric carried out a series of thefts, stealing over $100,000, which prompted the family to move to Beverly Hills. Eric then attended Beverly Hills High School, where he stood out with his tennis skills, ranking 44th nationally. Lyle attended Princeton University, but was suspended for poor grades and involvement in plagiarism. He also caused trouble with his roommate and damaged their dorm room. Meanwhile, Eric collaborated with a classmate to co-write a script titled Friends, which tells the story of a young man from a wealthy family who devises a perfect murder plot to kill his parents and claim their fortune. On a seemingly ordinary evening in 1989, the luxurious Menendez estate in Beverly Hills, California, became the site of a horrific crime. Two sons, Lyle and Eric Menendez, committed an unimaginable act. They murdered their own parents, José and Kitty Menendez. Beneath the gleaming exterior of the Menendez family lay a dark and tragic story was unfolding. José Menendez, a successful businessman, and Kitty, a beautiful and vivacious woman, had built a life of comfort and affluence for their family. But behind the walls of this grand estate, their two sons, Lyle and Eric, endured years of physical and emotional abuse. Lyle, the older brother, often acted as a protector for his younger brother Eric, shielding him from their father's violent rages. José was not just a strict father, but a cruel and abusive man, regularly subjecting both boys to sexual and psychological torment. These painful memories were etched deep into their minds, leaving scars that would never heal. After years of suffering, Lyle and Eric reached a breaking point. They could no longer endure the fear and agony that consumed their lives. They meticulously planned an act they believed would free them from their parents' control, and on that fateful night, in a moment of darkness, they took up guns and ruthlessly ended the lives of José and Kitty, marking the tragic end of their tortured existence. After the murder of their parents was discovered, Lyle and Eric Menendez tried to create an image of innocent children, devastated by the tragic loss. They cried and recounted a story of a happy family destroyed by a brutal murder. They spoke of warm memories and the unconditional love they believed their parents had for them. However, over time, their stories began to raise questions, and the truth gradually came to light. The investigation revealed shocking details about the abuse the brothers had endured. Authorities uncovered that Lyle and Eric had suffered years of sexual and psychological abuse at the hands of their father, Jose. The abuse went beyond physical violence, extending to mental manipulation, which caused deep psychological scars for both brothers. During the trial, Lyle and Eric shared their painful memories, expressing the fear, shame, and helplessness they had lived with for years. Despite this, it was undeniable that their actions led to the deaths of their parents. Lyle and Eric executed the murders without outside intervention. While the factors of abuse in the family were brought to light, the question of justice and accountability remained unresolved. Could the pain they endured justify their actions? The question of justice in this case continued to stir debate, even as many people sympathized with the brothers' experiences. In the months leading up to the tragedy, Lyle and Eric Menendez lived in a constant state of extreme tension. Not only did they face daily fear from their violent father, but they also had to endure the painful memories of the attacks they had suffered. Lyle and Eric Menendez meticulously planned the crime that would shock the nation, drawing inspiration from the 1987 film Billionaire Boys Club, which centered around wealth and deceit. The brothers spent weeks carefully preparing for the act. The day they chose to commit the crime was not a random one. They waited until the family's housekeeper was scheduled to take a day off, creating a window of opportunity they could exploit. Knowing that their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, followed a certain routine, they identified the perfect day to carry out their plan. Once everything was set, Lyle and Eric meticulously planned to stage a fake crime scene to cover up the truth of what had really happened in their home. On August 18, 1989, Lyle and Eric visited several gun shops in Southern California to purchase handguns. However, due to issues with Lyle's California driver's license and the state's mandatory waiting period for firearm purchases, they opted instead to buy shotguns. At a Big 5 sporting goods store in San Diego, they purchased a Mossberg 12-gauge shotgun, along with birdshot and buckshot ammunition. Eric used a stolen driver's license from Lyle's friend, Donovan Goodrow, to complete the purchase. On the evening of August 20, 1989, while Jose and Kitty Menendez were watching The Spy Who Loved Me in their Beverly Hills home theater, Lyle and Eric entered the room, armed with loaded shotguns. Jose was shot 6 times, including a fatal shot to the back of the head. Kitty was shot 10 times. Before being fatally shot in the face, she had crawled on the floor, attempting to escape. Lyle ran to the car where Eric handed him more ammunition to reload before he shot Kitty at close range in the face. After the murders, the brothers stayed in the house for a few minutes, waiting for the police to arrive due to the gunshots. They then discarded their blood-stained clothes and buried the shotguns along Mulholland Drive. They tried to create an alibi by going to a movie theater to buy tickets for Batman, but abandoned the idea after realizing the ticket stub would show the time. Instead, they attended the Taste of LA Festival at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. They returning home and not finding the police, Lyle called 911, distraught, telling the operator that someone killed my parents, claiming he had just returned home and discovered their bodies. Eric was heard screaming and crying in the background. When the police arrived, Lyle and Eric ran toward them, screaming. Despite the gunshot residue that could have been tested, the officers did not request such tests. The brothers lied to the police, claiming they had been elsewhere during the killings. Lyle suggested the murder might be business-related, hinting at a mafia connection. Officers and forensic staff described the crime scene as the most brutal they had ever encountered, with blood and brain matter splattered across the room. Retired Detective Dan Stewart commented, "I've seen many murders, but none this brutal. Blood, flesh, skulls. It was hard to describe, especially Jose, who looked like a person you could recognize. It was that bad." According to the coroner's report, Josie's fatal wound caused a blow to the head with the brain exposed and facial disfigurement, while the first series of shots to Kitty hit her chest, right arm, left hip, and left leg with a close-range shot causing extensive brain injuries. Initial detectives considered Lyle's suggestion that the murder might be linked to organized crime, given the brutal nature of the crime and Josie's business connections. After the murder of their parents, Lyle and Eric began spending large sums of money on luxury items, including buying a restaurant, 3 expensive Rolex watches, and a Porsche Carrera. Eric also hired a full-time tennis coach and participated in international tournaments. Both brothers moved out of their Beverly Hills mansion and into neighboring apartments in Marina del Rey, while indulging in costly activities like dining at upscale restaurants and traveling to popular destinations such as the Caribbean and London. They spent approximately $700,000, mostly from a $650,000 life insurance policy Jose had signed before his death. These extravagant expenditures led the police to suspect a financial motive, especially considering the drastic change in their spending habits immediately after the murder. Their lavish and unusual spending became a key factor in the investigation, raising questions about the connection between money and the crime. After the murder, Craig Signorelli, Eric's high school friend, provided important information to the police. Signorelli revealed that Eric had confessed to him about being involved in the killings. Additionally, Signorelli recalled that he and Eric had once written a 66-page screenplay titled Friends, which told the story of a son who kills his wealthy parents to inherit their fortune. The police saw a suspicious connection between this screenplay and the case, so they decided to take action. The police set up a meeting where Signorelli wore a hidden recording device during a lunch with Eric, hoping to capture a confession. However, when Signorelli asked Eric if he had killed his parents, Eric immediately denied it. Despite this, the police remained suspicious, especially considering Eric's previous confession and the unsettling similarities between the screenplay and the real-life events. Another significant development came from Lyle's friend, Glenn Stevens, who reported that a week after the murders, Lyle suddenly returned from Princeton and deleted something from the family computer. Lyle reportedly told Stevens that a family member had found a new will and that he had gone to delete it. A computer expert later confirmed that Lyle had hired him to delete a new will that Jose had prepared, one that could leave less inheritance to his sons. The investigation continued when Eric confessed to his psychologist, Jerome Oziel. After their sessions, Oziel began recording their conversations. After breaking up with Oziel, his ex-girlfriend Judalon Smith reported to the police about the brothers' involvement in the murder. Lyle was arrested on March 8, 1990, outside their Beverly Hills home, while Eric turned himself in 3 days later after returning to Los Angeles from Israel. Both brothers were held without bail and placed in solitary confinement at the Los Angeles County Jail. The mounting evidence, including the confessions and the deletion of the will, played a crucial role in building the case against them. In August 1990, Judge James Albrecht ruled that the recordings of conversations between Eric and his psychologist, Jerome Oziel, were admissible as evidence. Oziel claimed Lyle had threatened him, which voided doctor-patient confidentiality. The ruling was appealed, delaying proceedings for 2 years. By August 1992, the California Supreme Court ruled that most of the recordings were admissible, except for the portion where Eric discussed the murders. Following this decision, in December 1992, a Los Angeles County grand jury indicted the brothers for the murder of their parents. The special circumstance of financial gain was dismissed due to lack of evidence. Both were charged with first-degree murder with the special circumstance of lying in wait, making them eligible for the death penalty. Represented by attorneys Leslie Abramson for Eric and Jill Lansing for Lyle, the Menendez brothers testified that they killed their parents in self-defense after enduring years of abuse, particularly sexual abuse by their father, Jose Menendez. Lyle claimed the abuse began when he was 6 and abruptly stopped at 8, while Eric testified that the abuse continued into adulthood. 2 weeks before the murders, Eric confided in Lyle about the abuse, triggering intense family confrontations. They claimed Jose threatened to kill them if they revealed the abuse. On August 20, 1989, the final confrontation escalated, leading Eric to fire the gun out of fear for his life. The defense presented testimonies from witnesses like Diane van der Molen and Andy Cano, who stated that Lyle and Eric had disclosed the abuse to them during childhood. Additionally, the defense submitted photographs allegedly depicting evidence of the abuse, though their authenticity was disputed by the prosecution. Jerome Oziel, the brothers' psychologist, testified that the killings were fueled by hatred and a desire to escape Josie's control. However, the defense countered by portraying Oziel as manipulative and unreliable. The prosecution, led by Pam Bozanik, argued that the Menendez brothers' purchase of shotguns in advance proved premeditation, undermining their self-defense claim. Tapes of therapy sessions with Jerome Oziel revealed the brothers discussing plans to kill their parents, but made no mention of sexual abuse. The prosecution also played Lyle's 911 call to highlight his ability to act convincingly under pressure. Additionally, the prosecution noted that allegations of abuse only surfaced 7 months after the murders, coinciding with the development of the defense strategy. They questioned the credibility of witnesses and emphasized the brothers' history of lying to avoid detection. Lyle's ex-girlfriend testified that he had once offered her money to lie for him during the trial, further damaging their case. The jury ultimately failed to reach a consensus. Female jurors leaned toward voluntary manslaughter, while male jurors pushed for first-degree murder. The trial ended in a deadlock, prompting Los Angeles District Attorney Gil Garcetti to announce a retrial for the Menendez brothers. The second trial received less media attention as Judge Stanley Weisberg prohibited cameras in the courtroom to prevent jury exposure to external information. Eric testified for over 15 days about alleged abuse, though Weisberg limited parts of his testimony and restricted the defense to 64 witnesses. Eric claimed his father, Jose, had told him he was removed from the will. Lyle's ex-fiancée, Jamie Pisarcik, testified that Lyle attempted to bribe her to commit perjury in the first trial. She recounted how Lyle initially convinced her with a false story about mob involvement and later offered her money to fabricate claims of Josie's sexual misconduct. Prosecutor David Kahn presented a letter allegedly written by Lyle to a friend, Brian Islaminia, detailing how to lie on the stand. Another letter to ex-girlfriend Tracy Baker included similar instructions. The defense disputed the letter's authenticity, while Baker declined to comment. Kahn challenged Eric's claims of abuse, questioning why he didn't leave home at 18. Eric insisted his father's power extended beyond the home, calling Jose the most powerful man I'd ever met. Psychologist John Wilson testified that Eric displayed symptoms of PTSD, while prosecution expert Dr. Park Elliott Dietz dismissed the diagnosis, arguing Eric's actions, such as purchasing guns, contradicted learned helplessness. Judge Weisberg ruled there was insufficient evidence to justify the brothers' claim of imminent danger when they killed their parents. He allowed the defense to argue provocation regarding Jose, but rejected similar claims for Kitty. Clara Wright, the wife of a lawyer hired by the brothers, testified that they brought a safe to her home, hoping to find a copy of the will. The empty safe, opened days after the murders, was presented as evidence of the brothers' intent to quickly access their inheritance. The jury convicted both brothers of 2 counts of first-degree murder, with special circumstances of lying in wait and conspiracy. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During the penalty phase, Abramson was accused of instructing a witness to alter notes to exclude damaging details, though prosecutors declined to pursue charges. The brothers appealed for a retrial, citing ineffective counsel and misconduct, but on July 2, 1996, Weisberg upheld their consecutive life sentences. On February 27, 1998, the California Court of Appeal upheld the brothers' murder convictions, and the California Supreme Court refused to review the case in May 1998. Their state and federal habeas corpus petitions were later denied, with the Ninth Circuit rejecting their final appeal on September 7, 2005. In May 2023, the brothers sought a retrial, citing new claims that their father, Jose Menendez, had sexually abused Menudo member Roy Russell when he was 14. The appeal also referenced a 1988 letter from Eric Menendez detailing abuse, discovered in 2018. On October 24, 2024, Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon announced plans to seek resentencing, considering the brothers' trauma and time served. Originally set for December 2024, the retrial was rescheduled for January 31, 2025. The Menendez brothers' case remains one of the most controversial and debated in criminal history, sparking ongoing discussions about family trauma, justice, and the legal system. While some see the brothers' actions as a result of years of abuse, others argue that their crime was premeditated and inexcusable. The ongoing legal battles have sparked debates about justice and forgiveness, leaving many questions still unanswered. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Menendez brothers' case. Share your perspective in the comments below and join the conversation. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more intriguing stories in our upcoming videos.